Hey, it's Jonas, and we've got some more fantastic questions from our viewers. So please sit back and relax as Dave takes it on. Hi Dave, what's the best electric vehicle for me?
Now, unlike a petrol car, which the engines are all fairly similar, EVs are very different. EVs are much more tailored to the way you live. So, for example, if you're a rep on the road, you'll buy a bigger ICE car. You want a bit more comfort, a bit more space for your job, and you'll suffer with a bit less fuel economy. If all you do is just run around town as a little commuter, as a commuting car, or going to the shops, that's all you ever do, most people will buy a fairly small car. And they have a fairly small engine, it'd be a lot more efficient. And EVs, they're the same in that way, in that they are very much tailored for what you want. There's no one EV that's best for everyone. If you regularly do long distance journeys, you will need a different EV, like the Rep does, than if all you do is commute. So, in order to come up with a list of EVs that might be suitable for someone, I'd need to know who you are, what you do, where you live, can you charge at home, can you not charge at home, what charges do you have nearby, how many miles do you do it on a motorway, do you do it in a country roads or a rural urban area? There's so many factors. You need to isolate all of those and find out what's best for you, and then from that you can come up with an idea of which is the best EV for you. So, a very general idea: if you're a rep on the road, your time on the road is wasted. You have to get to your customer, but it's wasted. So when you get to your customer, you want to get that through as quick as possible and on to the next one. If you have a car that can only go 100 miles before it needs charging and it takes an hour to charge, it is useless as a car for a rep. So as a rep, if you're doing lots of long distance and you need it to charge quickly, you would need a Tesla. I make no excuse about that. Tesla have the largest supercharger network in the world. They are the highest power chargers that you'll come across, apart from a handful of 350 kilowatts appearing now and again. And the car is optimized for those chargers. So a Model S, for example, which is what I use, the new one now, charges 200 miles in 15 minutes. So as a rep on the road, if I drive 200 miles to a customer, go and see a customer, and then come out, I can go and have a cup of coffee and my car will be full again before I finish my coffee and I'm on to the next customer. Simple as that. But my car, as a Model S, will do up to 400 miles between customers. So I might be able to do 2 or 3 customers before I have to charge. Then it's just a cup of coffee and charge. That's for a rep on the road. If what you do is commute, let's say, like my wife, 6 miles to work and back. There are no bus routes. It's not safe to walk. It's through the country lanes and everything. It actually doesn't need a car. I think it's 3 buses to do 6 miles. It's ridiculous. But it's 6 miles there, 6 miles back, so 10 or 15 miles a day. And then once a week, she goes to see her mother. So in those such circumstances, pretty much any car will do. Because most cars nowadays, 100-mile range is regarded as small. Most of them are heading towards 200 and some are up at 300. So at the commuter end, if all you do is commute and you don't do more than 60 or 80 miles a week, buy anything you want. Go for fashion. There's a, Fiat 500e, cracking car. It hasn't got a long range, but if you're not using it, it doesn't matter. The Mini E, great. Some little cars, brilliant. And in between, if you're taking the family on, if you're having to ferry the family around every time you go to the shop and you've got 3 kids, you don't want a Fiat 500e. You want a family car. So you'll be looking in the ID4-5 range, you'll be looking in the Hyundai Ionity, or Ioniq, or the EV range. You'll be looking in the BMW X3 range. You look for what it is, and I can't tell you what you need because I don't know what your usage. Find your usage, look for a car that matches it.
Dave, EVs aren't going to clean up all the pollution, are they?
And you're absolutely right. EVs on their own are going to do not a lot. However, to quote a well-known supermarket, every little helps. I'll tell you how important this is. If you look at, we're coming up to a general election, And general election time, as soon as it's announced, your local MP will be out knocking on your door. I guarantee it. If it's not him or her, it'll be one of the aides, workers, assistants, whatever they call them. And the reason they do that, even if they've got a safe seat, is that they understand that every single vote is vital. And a handful of votes can mean the difference between being your MP for another 4 or 5 years or being out on the unemployment roll. Everyone counts. So you find the same with EVs. They're not the answer to everything, but pollution from ICE vehicle exhaust pipes is a really serious problem. In cities, it's about 25% of the pollution. If we can get rid of that, we've brought the pollution levels down, and that will improve the health of our population. It's not going to solve all the problems because there are going to be other sources. Still got gas boilers pumping out gases. We've still got factories pumping out gases and chemicals. So there's a long way to go. But we can't tackle them all with one solution. The solution is not EVs, but changing to EVs is part of the solution. Now, the government is in other areas with factories are now setting carbon dioxide limits and penalising companies who produce excessive amounts of pollution. So it's already happening in other areas. This is here. And some people, they tell me, oh, China's the big polluter. Why don't you go and have a go at them? We only produce 0.001% of the world's. Yeah, all right. But again, every little helps. And I heard a lovely anecdote about how one person can make a difference. And that was, there was an explorer who was going around and he was finding all these pollution things. And he was saying he's now on a campaign to try and do it. And the interviewer said to him, well, what can one person do? He said, I'll give you an example. If you go and stay in a room on holiday and there's one single mosquito in that room, you are not going to sleep that night. It will be up. It'll drive you mad trying to get rid of it. One person can make a difference. One car can make a difference. 100 cars, bigger difference. 1,000 cars, big. 10,000 cars, 1,000,000 cars, big, big difference. Forget what China's doing. In actual fact, they're getting very much cleaner than they ever used to be. That's a separate subject. But we just need to look after our own doorstep. So if we're producing pollution, we need to stop it.
Dave, all EVs do is shift the pollution from the vehicle to the power station.
It's not true. There are some lovely websites on the internet, National Grid, Live, and you can see exactly who's producing what. So the first fact you will see, for most of the day, they are using more renewable energy than any fossil fuel. Coal is now down to almost zero. Last year it was about 1.1%. There's one coal-fired power station left in the UK, and that one is closing down this year. We still use gas, but gas, we just got into the habit. It's a nice quick one, easy one to use, still pollutes. But for many days, we produce more than half of our electricity from renewable resources, from wind, from solar, from tidal, and from hydroelectric. That's a fact. Go and check on the internet. There is a trend now with battery storage that the excess that the wind farms and the solar farms produce, which currently is just wasted, they turn them off, that's going to be stored in batteries. And it means that when those batteries start feeding that electricity back into the grid, the percentage of green is going to rise still further, because that electricity, although it was stored in a battery, was still produced from a green renewable source. And over time, it is going to happen that we will produce all of our electricity from renewable resources, 100%. Now, it's not going to happen this week, not going to happen this month, and there are going to have to be changes to the way we use it and the way it's stored, and the way it's generated, the way it's transported, transmitted around the country. There are big changes ahead, but the grid is on target for going renewable, for making sure that all the electricity it buys comes from, as a preference, from a renewable resource before anything else. And so this is a process that's now unstoppable. The main reason it's become unstoppable is because if you buy one of these grid-connected battery packs, they are cheaper to run than a power station. What happens is, during the day, electricity often goes negative. That means that the grid has an option of either shutting them down because nobody's using enough electricity, or by offering people money to take it. So if you've got a 500, 200, 100 megawatt, gigawatt battery there, and someone's offering to pay you to take electricity from the grid, you'll take it. You can fill these batteries up during the daytime, and then you just hold it until you get to peak time when the grid is going, oh my goodness, we're running out. Can everyone switch on all the power back into the grid? And these batteries will supply it back into the grid. So they'll be buying it cheap and selling it dear every single day of the year. And this is going to be a major difference, because our grid will get cleaner and cleaner and cleaner until eventually we're not burning any fossil fuels. And this could be within 5 to 10 years. They're seeing it on Australia. If you want to have a look at the figures, they're fascinating. Australia used to have what they call peaker plants. These were coal-fired power stations that they would only use at the peak demand, and they had to fire them up hours in advance because you can't just light a coal fire. It takes hours to build up. And all they did was pump out massive amounts of electricity at peak time, and then they let them fizzle out and stop. But the electricity they sold was at a huge premium. Number of companies have gone in and fitted grid-connected batteries. These now store the electricity. It's a sunny country. They store electricity from PV panels and wind turbines. They store it during the day when it's really cheap or free, and then they just release it back into the grid. And these coal-fired power stations, one after the other, they're just shutting down, one after the other. It's not going to be long before the very last coal-fired power station in Australia shuts down permanently. It's happening. So I can understand people thinking that if you just transfer the pollution to a power station, but in actual fact, the power station is itself becoming much greener.
Dave, how fast is my vehicle going to charge at the different types of charger? Fast, rapid, ultra rapid?
Okay, this is a really difficult question to answer because there's so many factors involved. So we're going to deal here. Let's try and get rid of as many factors as we can. Let's assume that your battery's almost empty, because this is where it will charge the fastest. So you're not going there with a 90% battery wanting to top up to 100. You're going there with a virtually flat battery. So that's the first provision we have to do. The second one is we're going to assume your battery's nice and hot. Typical battery reacts to temperature. If it's really cold, they charge really slowly. If it's way overheated, they charge really slowly. But there's a sweet spot in between. And that sweet spot is somewhere between about 30 degrees centigrade, nice summer's day, and 60 degrees centigrade, which is a heat wave in Egypt. So these are quite warm temperatures. So we're going to assume that whatever battery you've got is at the absolute optimum temperature for maximum charging. So we've taken the battery out of the equation. So it now comes down to what the chargers can provide to the EV. So looking at the basic one, the fast chargers, why they call them fast, I don't know, they're so slow. These are 7 kilowatts. And roughly speaking, if you plug into a 7 kilowatt charger, you will charge at the rate of something like 20 miles for every hour you're plugged in. What it means is, if you go there and you've got your battery's flat and you plug it in for an hour, you'll have 20 miles of range. That's how they work. These are obviously designed for overnight use. They're not designed for out on a road trip. So overnight, if you leave it plugged in for 6, 8 or 10 hours, you can have 200 miles. You wake up in the morning, your battery's full. That's what they're designed for. So at the bottom end of the market, you're charging at about 20 miles an hour. When you get up into the rapid chargers, there's rapids and ultra rapids. Rapids are 50 kilowatts. That's the definition of them. And the ultra rapids are anything from 75 kilowatts up to 350 kilowatts, and probably above by now. So the rapid chargers, if you plug into a 50 kilowatt charger and your car can charge at a faster rate than that, it will just take 50 kilowatts. You're probably going to add a couple of 100 miles an hour. So you plug into a 50 kilowatt charger and within an hour, you'll have added maybe 200 miles. If you go to an ultra rapid, most cars will not get anything like what they're promising. Most cars have a limiting factor, which is the battery management system, and this determines how fast the electricity comes in. And most cars are around about 100 kilowatts. That's it. So if you have a Vauxhall Astra E or a Fiat 500e or an early Polestar or an early Tesla or an early Hyundai, an early ID4, these all charge at about 100 kilowatts. So your limiting factor here is the car stopping. It's not the battery, it's the car stopping a massive surge of current going into a battery that can't take it. So if you plug into a 350 kilowatt charger and your car can only take 100, you'll only ever get 100. So if you've plugged in at 100 kilowatts, you'll probably get a full battery. Let's say the same 200 mile is going to be around about 40 or 50 minutes, something like that. So you're looking at maybe 300 mile an hour, something in that region. When we go above that, there are some cars that can charge really, really fast. So whereas most cars are 100 kilowatts, most Teslas are 250, most Hyundai and most Kia are 250. And then there are a few, there's an Audi e-tron GT, there's a few others, and these can charge over 250, nearly 300. And there's just one car in the whole of the UK that can charge at 350, and that's the Lotus Electra. It's the only one we've got. No one else can get anywhere near that. The others are hovering around the 200. Even Porsche Taycan, reckon about 280 kilowatts flat out. So these are much, much faster charging cars. So a Tesla Model 3, long range, that can add 175 miles in 15 minutes. Porsche Taycan, very similar figure. The Lotus Electra, you probably get a bit more than that. So these are putting in power at the rate of about 400, maybe 600 miles an hour. And some of the Teslas, they reckon they can get close to 1,000 miles an hour going in. So if you had 200 mile, it takes 10, 15 minutes. And they're actually doing this. So realistically, you plug into a fast charger, you're going to get 20 mile an hour. Plug into a 50 kilowatt, most cars will get a couple of 100 miles in an hour. Plug into an ultra rapid, and you will get anywhere between 300 miles an hour and 1,000. But if you take an example, a Mini, they have a charging rate round about 80 kilowatt hours. Plug a Mini into a 350 kilowatt charger. It won't do any harm because the car will just restrict the electricity flowing in, but that will charge at the same speed as if you plugged it into a 100 kilowatt rapid or a 50 kilowatt rapid. Because your limit is 80 and you very rarely get actually the full limit, you'd be better off sometimes just going to the 50 kilowatt charger and putting in there. You'll fill your battery in less than an hour.
Dave, why should I buy an electric vehicle when they're all made using child labour?
You know, the first answer I usually give with this is that man used to walk in front of a petrol car and wave a red flag. It was the law. Can you believe that? They've long since stopped that. You don't have to have a man walk in front with a red flag anymore. That went years ago. And the people who say this about child labour and cobalt, they also are way behind the times. There is a massive drive within the EV industry to get rid of cobalt. First of all, it is using slave labour, and kids and everything else, but also it's an expensive product because these countries rip us off. They realise they've got a product that no one else has got. So for a long time, we've been trying to get rid of cobalt and nickel and other precious metals, and it's working. Tesla now, over half their cars they produce do not use any cobalt at all or any nickel, none. A lot of other people, if you look through the battery and this LFP, doesn't use any nickel or cobalt at all, long since gone. And shortly, you'll find that more and more cars are using these batteries. What about lithium? It comes from China. Well, yes and no. Lithium is everywhere. It is such a common material. It's third in the periodic table. It's everywhere. The trouble is we don't have the infrastructure, the mines and the processing to get it out the ground. We have left it to China. China used slave labour, absolutely, in the mines. They don't pay the workers apart from a bowl of rice. So they have actually set up a huge industry which is getting lithium out of the ground and turning it into the lithium that we use in the batteries, which is lithium carbonate. So that is where most of the lithium is coming from. It is available everywhere in the world. It's in the UK. I come from Cornwall. Down in Cornwall, the old tin mines. We used to dig tin out of them at one point. But these are massive mines. They go out miles under the sea. But years ago, the demand for tin dropped. You couldn't keep the mines going anymore. And the mines always used to have pumps. These are the big towers you see with the big wheels on top, and those were for, some of them were for the lifts getting the workers up and down, but the others were for pumps, running pumps. And the reason is there's always water seeping into the mines, so while you're trying to mine you need to pump the water out. They shut down the mines decades ago, and what's been happening over the years is the mines have been filling up with water. It's not a problem, just full of water. Nobody's down there getting anything. But lithium is one of the most soluble elements in the world. Because it's in the rocks and in the soil and everything else, this water for decades now has been leaching lithium out into the water. And so the water in the Cornish mines, which are no longer used as mines, is now very rich in lithium. And there's a company formed, which is called Cornish Lithium, believe it or not, and they're now extracting lithium from that water. It's a non-invasive process. You don't have to dig or mine or anything else. You just pump some water out of the ground, extract the lithium, and it's an environmentally friendly use for what's down there. So lithium's everywhere. Unfortunately, we rely on China, and the reason we do that is because it's so cheap. We can buy lithium off China at a really rock-bottom price. But the US government now has introduced a law which says that you must buy locally. And so Tesla's the first one. They've started up a lithium mine in Texas. It won't be up and running yet, but it will be this year. And then it believes with new equipment and new processes, it will be able to produce the lithium carbonate cheaper and less environmentally damaging than China does at the moment. And of course, at that point, Tesla is going to be supplying all the lithium for the whole of America, unless others open up the mines as well. So at the moment, it's heading in the right direction. We've still got a little way to go. Cobalt and nickel are pretty much things of the past, but lithium's still an issue. However, two things are happening. The first of those is sodium batteries, sodium-ion batteries. So instead of using lithium, you use sodium. And sodium, I think most people are aware, it's common salt, sodium chloride. Sodium is an abundant product. There's actually more of it than lithium in the general environment, and that can be extracted, for example, from the sea. The sea is full of salt, sodium chloride, and we can extract sodium really cheaply, or we can dig it from the ground really cheaply. And the first of the sodium batteries are now hitting the market in EVs. It's not very good yet. It's only early days, so the sodium-ion batteries do not produce the same amount of power, size for size, as lithium, but they're getting better all the time, and probably within 6 or 12 months they'll be producing more power. So we're already heading away from sodium. The second advantage of sodium, of course, is you don't have to buy off China. Sodium's everywhere. Wherever you dig, America, Canada, Germany, Australia, Indonesia, it doesn't matter. You dig down there, it's a very, very common element. So in time, we're moving away from it. But it's just one of those little ironies. I wonder why people use this. Because if you look down what you're holding in your hand at the moment, it's probably a smartphone. Smartphones have made no effort whatsoever to get rid of nickel and cobalt. So your smartphone battery, they use nickel and cobalt because they give much more power per weight. So in a smartphone, this is absolutely vital. You want a tiny little battery that gives a massive amount of power. You can't be doing, like the old bricks on the mobile phones, you can't be doing batteries that size. So they are very, very serious about using cobalt and nickel. So your iPhone, whatever you're using, your smartphone, your Motorola, your Samsung, whatever it is, I guarantee they will be cobalt nickel batteries in there, and they ain't going to change. They don't care. They've got to get the power density right. So all you people who complain about EVs using child labour, stop buying your mobile phones. Stop buying your tablets. Stop buying your power tools. Stop buying your electric cycles. Anything with a battery, your mobility scooters, the lot. Stop buying them if you're worried about child labour digging out cobalt, because the EV industry is moving well away from that at a really dramatic pace. Everyone else, not yet. Have a go at them.
Well, thanks very much for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to see more, please subscribe and click the notification bell so we can notify you next time we launch a video. And a massive thank you to all our Patreon supporters. It is your support that enables us to go out and make these videos for you. So thank you very much for your contribution. I'm Dave.